The civilization restarting series, and we're going to have an actual war. And how does it begin, you may be wondering? Well, it's not just a colonial war. No. This mighty nation, the mighty, what did I call this? Is that beige? Yeah, the mighty beige empire. I actually like calling them by their colors, the mighty beige. Starts a invasion of the colony. They're trying to occupy land, but as they move in, the French attack back as they push them back and take their coastline on this front and move into one of their colonies. Wait, I just realized. Yeah, I can remember what they had. They had these colonies. And well, in this front, they cross mountains and continue it into this colony, with French forces pushing them back in the south. But quickly, wait, what the forces there doing? Let's see, logically, no. Why would they? If they were to attack anyone, it would definitely be the Beige Empire. With an attempted landing in France failing. Not France, the Pink Empire. It fails. With the Pink Empire realizing this is a problem, they decide to sign an alliance with the Yellow Empire. Why the Yellow Empire? Because, well, they are trying to, because they know what this Orange Empire is planning. This Orange Empire signs an alliance with that nation. This is a problem. Now this nation has started an invasion. And well, at first they advance really effectively. They advance all the way to about here. As quickly the Orange Empire pushes them back. And this is what it looks like. With the Yellow Empire also starting a minor invasion, maybe, to this colony. Well, they also attack up here into this colony. And well, the Pink Empire, with the help of the Yellow Empire, is advancing. But what Pink Empire didn't account for is what would happen next. With the Pink Empire deciding the invasion of the Yellow country is a good timing. But what they end up happening is that this nation decides to join other nations, believing as an opportunity for expansion, which they take. And well, this nation quickly gets pushed back very far before it starts pushing back a bit to occupy territory, and then it becomes basically occupied by the Pink Empire, which this leads to the Yellow Empire advancing. Eventually, they're able to create a stalemate on both fronts. But as you can see, as that's happened, this purple nation has joined against them. They start an invasion over here, the Orange nation does, and one into this colony. Even though it's pretty much a jungle. And well, they move against the Pink Empire pretty fast. Purple Empire in this area pretty fast. With them having to fight 3 nations on this front. With a few landings taking place here by the Beige Empire, realizing that they have the ability to do this. Well, this is a big deal, because now it's hard for them to get resources in. with the Orange Nation landing its navy and taking a few of the islands over. And well, the victory is still in the fronts are still in the advantage of this nation. The government of the Orange Empire decides to move over here for specific reasons, as they believe that their home country could fall. With the Yellow Empire not really advancing much, focused on another front. But they do still advance a tiny bit. Their goals aren't that major, because, well, what's their point? With the Pink Empire getting pushed back along the coast. As they're now fighting on two fronts. With the Yellow Nation deciding to advance, hoping they can bring the Orange Nation out of the war. With the Green Nation over here deciding it's a good time to join, as they start occupying lands. And this Brown Nation over here does. So they advance like that. But then, this nation gets involved in the South. It's a big deal, because, well, didn't they colonize something? Wait a minute. Didn't they? Somewhere. I don't know where. Maybe they got it stolen. Orange Empire is starting to get close to forced to surrender. I'm ending up collapsing in Europe. But despite this, a struggle occurs to push them back. But the Orange Empire hasn't fallen. With them promising this colony that was once free independence, a re-establishment, which leads to fast advances here, as this nation believes re-establishment would be great. With the fall beginning in their colony, of them likely having to surrender soon, the Orange Empire decides to keep its advances going despite having no territory left outside of their colonies. And well, the colonies belonging to them decide to surrender. With this nation over here advancing pretty well. With this nation deciding it's a good time to try to occupy some territories, what they don't realize is that the Yellow Nation is ready for an offensive. And the Yellow Nation starts moving down into their territory on multiple fronts. And well, they start advancing there. And over here, that nation realizes that was probably not the best move. Yeah, I don't think that. With the Yellow Empire getting pushed back, you may ask me why they decided to go all the way there. And there's a reason. They decide to attack their crucial area as a colony, try to get a better deal out of them. And well, the Pink Nation refuses to go to the negotiating table, even though their people want it. They don't want to lose all the colonies. And well, a few of the colonies start surrendering their colonial militaries. And well, eventually it's forced to be abandoned, with a landing taking place over here to bring back the Orange Empire. But they're kind of not advancing far, and they decide to meet for a peace treaty. And now for the peace treaty, including the loss of colonies. For them, they gave one colony away to the Green Empire, which they freed. The Purple Empire still has the colonies, but really reduced. Same with the Purple Nation, which, as you can see, still has some land in the New World. And still has some there, despite being fully occupied. With the Blue Nation taking 2 of their colonies, and the Yellow Nation, not Yellow, Orange Nation taking 2, and the Beige Nation taking 1. Or 2, I mean. The Orange Nation's reduced as their puppets have been annexed. Then the Yellow Empire created 2 puppets. And also, there's still 1 peace treaty that wasn't made yet. Which, before I make it, I'm gonna... It's up to this line, basically. And then over here, it's up to that line. Now to see the puppets. And then they decide to puppet all of these nations. They make them bigger to prevent takeover. Because they don't want takeovers. So that's not very great. Well, that nation has a bit to deal with. Because they lost a war. This nation still gained lands. It's not as bad as it could be. Well, now for a war. And this nation decides to expand. And they move towards taking back some of their former territories. And well, they're Easter colors. I don't know why I picked those colors. With this nation deciding to expand here, eyeing a potential trade between them and the southern neighbor. This nation decides to invade even further, as they kind of take over. And then after taking over all of it, after a few voted to join, they just directly annexed it. They don't really like the Blue Nation, worry about how strong it is. Despite the fact there's a stronger nation, who has decided maybe they'll turn into colonies. Into 4 colonies. Or 5 or 6. They create 1 down here, because, well, that's important. Then they decide to make an interior one. And then they have the south and a north one. With this nation there deciding to go into this territory, which is not good. This nation decides to attack their forces in that area, which leads to them declaring war. And they climb the mountains. It takes a few months, maybe even a year, and then they get across. And then they start an invasion. Well, the Yellow Nation eyes it as a potential expansion, as they manage to make an encirclement in the north. And this nation here decides to support the nation that's attacking by doing this. This nation, once a strong nation, now crumbling. And they call off some forces. Well, this nation decides to continue its expansion. And this nation over here decides to continue expanding. With this nation in trouble, it literally is forced to give up land. And not like small amounts of land, no. Pretty decent size. With this nation over here creating another, like a colony or puppet thing. And then over here, this nation takes land. And then down here, this nation decides to take land. Well, this nation directly annexes. The other nations make into like puppets, because they have expanded a lot. Well, that's pretty much all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out. Bye, guys.